booties for black girl nerds.
Thank you for your time. This is a really fun series for me because I thought of two mantras that I really like: taking up space and a woman knowing her superpower.
Yeah.
And it really kind of marries those ideas. When you think of women taking up their space, how do you see it personally, and how does She-Hulk fit into those ideas that you have about that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's still such a, I feel like it's still an uncomfortable notion for women to take up space. It's still so counter to all the, socializing we've been given, and the sort of training throughout our lives is like, don't. And so, and at the same time, I think there's still, as much as women are being centered in certain ways, there's still like massive places where that's not happening, and such a legacy of centering male voices that just inherently makes it like you could never kind of catch up. Do you know what I mean? So I think culturally we're still contending with that as like a complicated idea. And what's so cool about She-Hulk is that she embodies this feeling of being able to walk into a room with a different body and be perceived differently based on that. And sort of the whole thing of the show for me is like, why do we do that to women? Why do we look at them and decide based on how they present, who they are, how we speak to them, whether we deem them worthy of respect or space, all of that stuff? I think it's quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting to watch her tread that kind of road between Jen the person, She-Hulk, the moniker. Made me think of like the whole Octomom phenomena, where I can't even think of the young lady's name now because we were fed Octomom. Is she? Right. How does She-Hulk kind of wade in those pools of celebrity and trying to maintain your own personal identity?
Yeah, that's so interesting because it's almost like she becomes commodified as She-Hulk. As soon as she's named, she's like owned by everyone else, right? She isn't herself anymore. So that like conflict with there's something in it that allows her, she gets a job out of it. She becomes the head of a superhuman law division. However, it's only because she's a superhuman. Not because she's an incredible lawyer who's worked her whole life to pursue that, but because of this other thing that happened to her that actually has nothing to do with her. Mm-hmm. So it's that conflict that's really fun to play with, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, as with the Hulk that we know and love, beloved character within the universe, She-Hulk, the powers originate from the same place, under intense emotion, anger. How do you play into those themes? Because women are always stereotyped as being over emotional and triggered by everything. And in this, it seems the opposite. It seems like the male Hulk is more emotional than women are stereotyped to be. So how did you find some fun in those themes?
Yeah, I think what it is that it's like he has never had to temper his temper or his anger. And so when it's sort of like made monstrous, he becomes a monster. When it's like, combined with this blood that he has that makes everything much bigger than it is, he isn't able to deal with it. Whereas she, because she has felt intense emotions her whole life, but has been socialized to not show them or not feel them because of all that. You're too emotional, you're too loud, you're too big, whatever. She's very good at suppressing it. So her consciousness stays the same and she's able to be very aware in that space. And I love that. I love that we do it in a comedic way. I love that it makes Bruce incredibly frustrated that he had to go to like an island for 15 years to like deal with his anger. And she's like, this is the easiest thing on the planet. It is like a wonderfully different origin story for her.
It's awesome. Yeah. Well, I thank you for your time. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I didn't wear green.
I love
and
the
I wish
pink.
I would have worn green.
I love the pink.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here and being with me. This series was a lot of fun, and I thought about two things for women that we need to do more. Stepping into our superpower.
Yes.
and taking up space in the room.
Yes.
So when you look at this part, how does that play on those themes? Are they important to you, and how does She-Hulk play on those themes?
Yes, insanely important to me. And I will say stepping into their superpowers, because women have so many.
Period.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of, it involves my character so much, because She-Hulk is, what I love about She-Hulk is like she's green, all of a sudden she's a different size, she's taking up space, she's special, and NIkki so badly wants her to not shrink, right? You know what I mean? We have so many special women in this world, or women who really own what they're good at, and when you're special, sometimes people don't like that. You know what I mean? It kind of creates a mirror for someone else's insecurity, and people will attack you. So NIkki very much wants She-Hulk to own and be unapologetically who she is, and how insanely different she is, and love that she's powerful, and love that she's different, and love that she looks a certain way. So, but in general, just on a societal level, like I love nothing more than people, and women in particular, reaching their full potential, and sometimes I think the most important element of that is just knowing for yourself what you're good at, and not gaslighting your talents. And there's so many times that it seems weird if you're like, I know this, but 100 other people are saying that. And so it's like, I want women especially to listen to themselves more and be like, yes, I have this. I don't care if it makes other people uncomfortable, but I'm special in these areas, and let me continue to follow that and my purpose. Yeah.
Exactly. See, and that's what I liked about NIkki. We all need a good homegirl, good friend who is going to hype us up and tell us to smell the flowers, take your flowers and enjoy them without being envy, because there's always this notion there can only be one.
Yes,
I hate that.
I know. I hate the sentence of like, oh, well, so she took the spot. No, so-and-so did a very good job and they are successful now. There's not only one spot. It's literally not the case, and women, anyone can break through and make their own path. So I do wish, I have a wonderful group of friends, and we all cheerlead for each other, and I think it's really important. And it's hard when you're feeling bummed about yourself or feeling down on anything to not see the other positive perspective. So we kind of constantly have to get it from other people and give it to other people, because sometimes we can see in our friends what they can't see. So I think it's really important to articulate it as friends.
Exactly. I did that on the way over here. I had to call a friend and give her flowers just for being a good, supportive friend, just like her.
And women, I think in particular, are uniquely skilled at that, and I think also, like, women of color, it's like we know what it's like to continue to be marginalized, so we can't afford to not double down and not, like I said, like, gaslight ourselves and be like, no, I'm allowed to like do this, and that was just someone else's like issue. It has nothing to do with me. Like, let me keep like shining, essentially. Yeah,
for sure. And it's okay for us to hype ourselves up.
Yes,
hype our homegirls up when they do something great. And I think She-Hulk does that beautifully.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed it. I love your character.
Thank you.
I need me one.
Yeah.
Another. Well, I got a few. I need another.
I know. Let's keep collecting them. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for your time today. What I liked about She-Hulk was there was this balance between her being an over-exaggerated, hulkish figure, but focusing more on internal strength. Where was the balance between physicality and internal strength with your eye with leading the series?
Well, it was really important from the beginning that she felt like a well-rounded, like, three-dimensional human being, like she had to be a real person first, or else you're not going to care about the other stuff if you don't really care about her. As Jen Walters first and foremost, and really it was about grounding the journey with this person, Jen Walters, and all of this that happens to her, because she, unlike the Hulk, retains her consciousness when she turns into She-Hulk. But she now gets to experience the world in a completely different body and see how she has to, the changes of how she moves through the world, but also how the world treats her and receives her.
With her, throughout the series, we'll see how she comes to terms with being called She-Hulk and the origins of how she got that way. But it almost seems like it reminds me of the Octomom phenomena, how that person lost their humanity and just becomes that name and that title. How will she tread that road from being Jen Walter, the full breathing person, to being She-Hulk persona?
Yeah. Well, like media and like our relationship with public scrutiny is like a huge theme in the show, because we really wanted to ground it in like what would really happen if this were all occurring in the real world. And of course, like if in our world, like this woman suddenly became a 6'7" green Hulk who is a superhero, but also is a lawyer of some high profile cases, like there'd be intense media scrutiny, you know, like we talked a lot in the writer's room about American Crime Story, O.J. Simpson, because it did such a good job of covering like the media scrutiny and also like how differently the media treated Marcia Clark as opposed to everybody else involved in the case because she was a woman, you know? And for us, you know, it just felt very true to real life that there is such a different standard in how we look at women as opposed to how we look at men and what we allow in women in the public as opposed to the male heroes.
There's a great scene I like. I can't remember if it was a photo in the credits or an actual scene where she's in the elevator in the She-Hulk persona. And all I could think of, yes, women, we got to take up space. And that's literally what the picture looks like. You know, intentional design choice, or did it just happen that way?
That was actually a reference to a cover from one of the She-Hulk comics.
Oh, that's really dope. So, yeah, people get a little Easter egg to look for.
Exactly.
And lastly, Jen Walters, is there a happy medium between owning celebrity and being a regular person? Do you think they can wade in both ponds?
Oh boy, I don't know. It's tough, you know, for her, I'm sure for her in the beginning, it feels like the worst of both worlds, you know, because she's famous enough for everyone to feel like they can comment about her and have a say in everything and really violate her privacy. But she hasn't seen really any of the benefits because it's not like she's getting sent a bunch of free stuff either.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, I loved it. I had a great time. I like watching just the whole take up space and coming to grips with your superpowers and things that all people have. And this really did that well. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Better shake your booties for black girl nerves. Better shake your booties for black girl nerves.